everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kay Thompson, and this is A Lesson in Real Estate. If you're in the market right now to purchase a home, especially if you're looking to buy in a specific price range, then chances are you could find yourself in what your real estate professional may be calling a seller's market. There are times as well when sellers feel that there is not enough interest in the homes that they may have on the market, or that there are not enough buyers in the market to match the demand for homes that are available for sale. The real estate industry is experiencing a lot of changes right now. Some of them are good and some of them are bad, as it is always. And right now, the real estate industry is experiencing an historically low inventory shortage. This means that there are currently not enough homes on the market that are available to either buy or rent in order to adequately supply the demand for everyone to either purchase or rent. There's not a lot of options, specifically in a certain price range for options for new home ownership. In fact, as of the end of February, the housing market tumbled by nearly 30% year over year to a record low of having only 1.03 million homes available. And that is according to the National Association of Realtors, or NAR data, that goes all the way back to 1982. So that's almost 40 years. Last month, homes typically sold in just 20 days, which is a record low. We usually have homes that are on the market between 30 to 45 days, and that's a national average. So supply is so short right now that it's actually limiting the number of homes that are getting sold. Existing home sales fell almost 7% between February and March, according to NAR. And of course, that tumble is being blamed on our historically low inventory. So that brings me to the topic of today's real estate lesson. Today I'm going to shed some light on some of the terms that you may hear in a market like this, especially if you're looking to buy or sell a home right now, and discuss how you should not let the fact that you may be hearing these terms often deter you from thinking clearly about your long-term goals as it relates to real estate, and whether that is simply to purchase a home for yourself and your family, or to invest in real estate as a business. And we will also discuss why it's important to negotiate regardless of what kind of market we have in any real estate transaction, so that you can be sure that you're getting the best terms for yourself as it relates to the real estate transaction in the long term. So we'll start today by defining a few terms that are very commonly used by real estate professionals and by the media. The first of these terms is going to be the seller's market. According to the financial website Bankrate.com, a seller's market is a real estate term indicating that there are more real estate buyers in the market than there are sellers. When the demand is higher than the supply, home prices typically increase, which in essence benefits sellers. Bankrate.com also explains that during a seller's market, buyers have little room to negotiate because the demand is so high. Sellers markets usually occur when the economy is good and there is low housing inventory available in the area. When this occurs, prices rise. Like I said before, buyers are offered, non-contingent contracts. Buyers are less likely to ask sellers to make subsidies, such as paying points or closing costs. Buyers usually do these things, and other things, such as they may forego home inspections, which I do not suggest ever doing, especially if you're looking for a home for your family and yourself to live in. Buyers also will usually do things such as offer more than the asking price for the home. They will take a property as is without really knowing what they're getting themselves into. Sometimes well, specifically in a buyer's market, sellers will offer home warranties as, you know, an incentive for buyers to look at their homes and even make an offer. And so in a seller's market, buyers are usually asking for things like the home warranty, and the seller has the option of saying, no, you know, at this particular point in time, I don't want to, you know, cover the cost of that for you. And so it really depends on your situation and, you know, the situation of the seller as to whether or not you can come to a meeting of the minds. In a seller's market, you may hear of another term. They kind of go hand in hand, so I'm going to put both of them out here for you. You may hear the term multiple offer situation. Sometimes it's referred to as a bidding war. Just depends on how many buyers you have engaged in trying to get their offer accepted for a particular property. So a multiple offer situation is one where two or more buyers have presented offers for the same house. Or another piece of real property that's for sale. It doesn't necessarily have to be a house. It could be vacant land. It could be commercial property, whatever. There's just multiple buyers interested in the same property, and they have, in essence, submitted a formal offer in order to secure that property. When this happens, a seller has the option of doing a few things. The first thing that they could do is just pick the offer that they think is best for them and move on with completing the real estate transaction with that particular buyer. The seller can also call for a highest and best, which we'll talk about just in a few seconds here. And then a seller could also reject all offers if none of the offers that are presented to the seller at the time are offers that the seller feels is conducive to them meeting their real estate goal and completing their real estate objection. Then they can reject all the offers. So I'm going to spend a few minutes here, or just a minute or two, I should say, on the highest and best offer. So the highest and best offers, when a seller gets offers that are usually close in price, or asking offer price, I should say. Like if you have a house that's for sale for $100,000, you may get an offer for $100,000. You may get one for, you know, $100,500, and one for, you know, $101,000. One may ask for closing costs. One may ask for a home warranty. One may not ask for anything. So when that happens and it's too close for the seller to really fully feel comfortable making a decision, he may advise his real estate professional to call for the highest and best offer. At which point a buyer has the opportunity to amend their original offer to either increase the price, take out closing costs if they've asked for that, take out the option for home warranty. They can remove the inspection contingencies. They can offer more than the asking price and things of that nature in hopes of getting their offer accepted. So a lot of times I hear in our community, the real estate community, where, you know, agents just make the assumption that because a home is appraised for a certain amount, that a seller is going to agree with that appraised value and then just drop the allow renegotiations to occur, I should say, that would change the, you know, contract purchase price. I am here to tell you that that is absolutely a misconception. An appraiser, like I spoke about on a previous episode, just gives an opinion of value, and based on what he sees of the property and what the market conditions are. But the true value of a home is what a seller is willing to sell it for and what a buyer is willing to pay for it. So if an appraiser comes and does an inspection on a property and gives and assigns a value to the property that the seller is not comfortable with, the seller can choose to move or not move forward and say, hey, I just would like to, you know, cancel this agreement. I understand he says my house is worth this amount, but I really need to get this amount. And if I can't get that, I don't want to sell. So that happens a lot more in a seller's market like the one that we're experiencing nationwide than it does any other time. And so I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out to you, that sometimes realtors will advise, hey, let's just offer $10,000 more or $5,000 more, you know, whatever, $100,000 more than the asking price, because in their minds, they feel that that's going to, you know, be the thing that pushes the seller over the edge to pick your offer. And I'm just saying that if a seller has really done his homework and he knows that, you know, the amount over his asking price that you're offering is not going to be appraised, and, you know, you have a loan that's contingent upon, you know, an appraisal value being met, he probably won't accept your offer. And also, you're also running the risk of, you know, giving away all your equity if you are, well, at the onset, I should say, of your purchase, if you are, you know, making offers for properties where you're making an offer for the asking price or the amount, or an amount over and above the asking price. You are literally giving away money when you do that. So you want to be careful about, you know, just offering more money to a seller just because you really like their house. What you should be doing is advising your real estate professional to use their negotiation skills and their, you know, cooperations and relationship building skills to help determine what it is the seller really needs, to see if you can in fact fill that need for the seller. And that will probably get your offer accepted a lot more quickly than just, you know, throwing money at it. Now, most times money talks. So I don't want to give the illusion that that situation never works. I'm just saying, when you think about it from the long-term perspective, you want to make sure that if you're offering more, that you can absorb, you know, the things that might come up as a result of your doing so in the future. Now, on the flip side of that is another very commonly used term, which puts sellers in a real estate transaction in a different position in terms of negotiation, as well as the buyers. That term is known as buyer's market. And according to Investopedia.com, the term buyer's market is defined as a situation in which changes to the underlying economic conditions that shape supply and demand mean that purchasers have an advantage over sellers in price negotiations as it relates to real estate. So basically, the buyer's market is the one where the seller has, you know, to contend with there being multiple properties on the market, there being a lot of inventory for the buyers that are in the market at that particular time to choose from. And it puts the buyer in the driver's seat as far as negotiations go. The buyer is able to, you know, work and more easily negotiate the price of the property that they're going to pay for it. With the seller, it's much more easier during a buyer's market to get a seller to pay for repairs, to get them to help cover the cost of closing costs for the buyer, to, you know, get them to pay for the purchase of a home warranty and things of that nature when there is a seller's market. But there are some main points to remember about this term, and these points are for remembrance are recommended by Investopedia, and they are as follows. A buyer's market refers to a situation, like I said, in which purchasers have an advantage over sellers in price negotiations. When changes in the market happen that increase supply, demand can decrease, and then the market changes, so it goes from a seller's market to a buyer's market because of that. A buyer's market is commonly used to describe conditions in real estate markets, but it can apply to any type of market where conditions favor the buyer. So you can use the term buyer's market for any industry where there's where the industry and its growth is contingent upon, you know, the supply and demand, the idea of supply and demand. And then the opposite of a buyer's market, like I said before, is a seller's market in which the conditions, you know, favor sellers. So those two terms are very important to understand, especially when you're speaking with a real estate professional, because a lot of times they'll use those terms to explain to you, you know, why it's so difficult to find a home that has all the amenities that you want, or why it's difficult for you to, get your offer accepted when you're offering asking price and all these other things. Now, typically in a buyer's market, like I said, the buyer can negotiate better. And like I said, they include home repairs, closing costs, home warranties, and those sorts of things. And so, even though it's easier to negotiate those things in a buyer's market, they can be negotiated in any market, whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. You just have to be willing to put in the work to find the buyer or the seller who can make that happen, where they can come to a meeting of the minds over, over a piece of real property. The next term that I will share with you briefly is the term balanced real estate market. A balanced real estate market is a term used to describe whether or not supply is meeting demand in the real estate housing market. And so if a region's housing market is balanced, it means that there is enough demand from buyers to equal the supply from sellers. And in a balanced market, sellers usually accept reasonable, close to list price offers, while homes generally sit on the market on average or typical length of time, which is, like I said before, between 30 and 45 days. That's the typical turnaround time for a home to sit on the market, and that's a national number. And this can vary from market to market, though. And then also in a balanced market, home prices remain stable. And for buyers, there's usually a sufficient enough a number of homes to compare and to choose from. So the buyer has a better option of getting what it is that they're looking for in the home versus if it was a seller's market. So in essence, what determines whether or not we are experiencing a seller's market or a buyer's market is just the simple economic notion of supply and demand. When there is a shortage of supply and the demand is high, a seller can make a great profit on a home. When the demand is low and the supply is high, a buyer can get a great deal on a home much more easily. When the market is balanced, in all actuality, the American economy is more stable and people can actually get what they're paying for. So if you are buying a home that is $100,000, 9 times out of 10, that's actually what it's worth. And you're not inflating it because there's such a high, desire for that home. So knowing the type of market that you're operating in when deciding to purchase or sell real estate is important. But what's most important is whether or not you are negotiating a good deal for yourself in the long run. Oftentimes in real estate, when we have low inventory and the demand for housing is high, or it's a seller's market, buyers in a lot of instances will wind up doing things that may sound good on the surface and at the time, but may wind up costing them greatly in the long run. So in the current market, for example, and I'm speaking of the national market here, it's very easy to find tons of instances where home buyers are bidding $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, even $50,000 in some markets over what the list price is for homes, just to be the winner in a multiple offer situation. When buyers do this, they are running the risk of giving away thousands of dollars in equity. Now, some of you may be asking, what is home equity? Well, I had to go to Wikipedia to get the most simple definition for home equity, but I have it here. And so according to Wikipedia, the term home equity is defined as the market value of a home's owner's unencumbered interest in their real property. That is the difference between the home's fair market value and the outstanding balance of all liens on the property. So your equity is, that amount of money in between what your home is worth on the market and what you owe on it. So, your home equity can go up or down, depending on market values, and the amount that you owe on your loan. If you don't have a loan payment and you own your own home outright, then you have 100% equity built up in your home. This means that if the market value of your home is $100,000 and you don't have any other liens or other encumbrances on your property, then you have $100,000 worth of equity in your home. If your home is valued at $100,000 and you have a $40,000 mortgage balance, however, then you have $60,000 worth of equity in your home, as long as you don't have any other liens or encumbrances that are owed. Your equity can be used for a number of reasons, but we'll talk about that on a different show. Now, it's important for me at this juncture to point out what most people won't readily see here. So based on the examples that I just gave regarding home equity and how to calculate it in the simplest forms, I put up a couple of simple problems on the screen for you to see. You can see that as the buyer has the greatest potential to make money when they purchase the home, meaning when they purchase the home, because they have the opportunity to have readily available equity. So not when they sell it. Most people make money when they buy a home, not when they sell it. If you're purchasing a home for the market value or even over market value, then you're not leaving yourself any equity, which could be used for home improvements, college expenses, medical expenses if needed, and other things, which I will state again that we can talk about on another show, how you can, access the home equity in your home. Also, real estate market values change often in the home, and in the 2008 market crash, a real estate market crash, there were millions of people who realized at the time that they not only did not have equity in their homes, but that they owed more than the home was worth. This led to a large number of people having to short sell their homes, or even having the lender to foreclose. So most of us know what a foreclosure is. But most of us, I have found, do not understand what a short sale is. So I'm going to include the Investopedia definition of a short sale here as a point of reference. A short sale in real estate is when a financially distressed homeowner sells their property for less than the amount due on the mortgage. The buyer of the property is a third party, not the bank, and all proceeds from the sale go to the lender. The lender either forgives the difference or gets a deficiency judgment against the borrower, requiring them to pay the lender all or part of the difference between the sale and the original value of the mortgage. Now, with that being said, I would like to finish this episode, by explaining to you why it is to your benefit as the buyer and even as a seller, to make sure that you're negotiating for the long term in your real estate transactions. You want to make sure that you're not losing something that you may need in the future. Now, it's important to negotiate your real estate transaction, regardless of whether you're in a buyer's market or a seller's market, for the following reasons. Number one, you don't want to overpay for a property and give away all the equity to the bank that holds the mortgage if you don't have to. You also don't want to sell yourself short on making a good profit from your home when you sell. Remember, buyers make money when they buy real estate, not when they sell the home. Unless they have bought the home and they were able to preserve some equity for themselves during the negotiation. So that is possible that a seller could, make money. And that's in essence what investors do. In a seller's market, buyers can become overzealous and forego important things in the transaction that they could regret later. For example, buying a home as is with no prior inspection could mean that you're just buying a money pit. So on the front end of that, you may be getting a great deal as far as the price goes, but just because the seller is selling a home cheap doesn't mean that it won't be a money pit in the future and that you won't be spending a lot of money to fix it up and make it what you want. So know what you're buying and know whether or not it's really worth it. Overpaying for a property is never a good idea, because if the market makes a negative turn, then you could find yourself in a situation where you owe more money than your home is actually worth. And it could cost you out of pocket just to sell it. So and that's especially the case if you don't, qualify for a short sale. So you want to make sure that you're not overpaying to the point, where it could be detrimental to you in the future. Negotiations help to identify the true needs of both the buyer and the seller. The seller's reason for selling his home or her home may not be to make money. There are other different and a plethora of different reasons that a seller may have for needing to unload a property that they own. So a good real estate professional, and if you're working with one, especially if they understand what your financial needs and goals are, is going to do all they can to figure out the true cause for the sale and then go ahead and negotiate on your behalf from that standpoint so that they can make sure you're getting a deal that's going to be beneficial to you not only now, but in the foreseeable future. Planning your home purchase and thinking about timelines is also very important. It's also always wise to start your search as early as possible. Start talking with professionals as early as possible in the real estate industry, whether that be a realtor, a lender, closing attorneys, home inspectors. Get all those things lined up as soon as possible, because what you want to do is really take your time to look for a property so that you can search for what you really want in a home, especially if it's one that you're going to be living in for the long term. And you want to make sure that you're not feeling pressured that you take some deal that you're not necessarily comfortable with, because you have a situation where you have to be moving pretty quickly. So try your very best to get yourself prepared, especially if you're living in an apartment or you have a rental or lease that's going to expire, to get that done as quickly as possible. Your timeline, I'm saying, so that you know how much time you're working with and you can gauge, the level of anxiety you need in order to be able to make a move if you have to. And also, don't let the terms buyer's market, seller's market, terms such as bidding wars and things of that nature deter you from, making the sound decisions that you need to make for your particular real estate transaction. If you have some specific goals that you need to meet and you have a specific timeline that you need to carry forth with in order to, secure things for your immediate and long-term future, then do not let those terms creep into your head and alter your thinking about what it is that you really want. I always tell people when I'm working with them in that realm that the home that's meant for you will be there for you. So don't make hasty decisions just because you feel the anxiety or pressure from, your real estate professional or people in your family or whomever that you need to do something right away, because when it's your time, the right home will be there for you. And finally, you definitely want to consult with a real estate agent or a realtor to help you determine what the market situation is, so that you know what is happening before you set down the path, or jump in the fray to get started buying or selling your home. We have all these tools that are available to us on the internet now. We can go to Zillow and get a Zestimate. We can go to Redfin. We can go to, Open Door and all these other places. And they have tools on their site that give you a general idea of what your home could be worth, or they give you a general idea of what you would be paying if you purchased a specific home. I'm here to tell you that those tools are not as complete, and they don't provide the same depth of information that you would get if you were working with a real estate professional to get that same information. So please, please, please make sure that you're utilizing them and that you're doing that. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kay Thompson, and this has been A Lesson in Real Estate. Until next time, take care of yourself and stay safe out there. Bye now.